You know how it is. We all have these big, important goals we want to achieve. But somehow, we always find ourselves saying, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, what if the answer isn't just trying to find more motivation? What if it's actually about understanding the science of why we wait?
Yeah, this is the million-dollar question, right? We know exactly what we should be doing, studying for that test, starting that side hustle, calling that person back, and yet there we are, organizing our spice rack for the third time, or just falling down a rabbit hole of cat videos. So what is going on?
Look, I'm not about to give you some raw motivational speech. You know the kind. They feel great for an hour, maybe a day, but then, poof, they're gone. Instead, we're going to get to the real root of the problem. We're going to use science to find actual lasting solutions.
So here's our game plan. We're going to see how this is a problem as old as humanity itself. Then we'll look at the real price we pay for waiting. After that, we'll dive into the science of motivation, unpack the fear behind it all, and finally, build you a toolkit you can start using like today. All right, let's get into it. And first things first, if you procrastinate, you are so not alone. Seriously, this is not some new thing that our smartphones invented. This is a deep, fundamental part of being human, and it goes back thousands and thousands of years. I mean, what's really wild is just how long we've been struggling with this. We're talking about Egyptian hieroglyphs from 1400 BC that basically say, hey, stop putting off your work. An ancient Greek poet wrote about it. Centuries ago, the Indian poet Sant Kabir was warning people about the dangers of waiting for tomorrow. This has always been with us. But, and this is the urgent part, even though the problem is ancient, it has gotten way worse. According to one of the leading researchers in this field, Dr. Piers Steele, chronic procrastination has shot up by a staggering 300 to 400% in just the last 40 years. We are putting things off more than any other time in history. And that huge jump comes with some very real costs. The price of saying, I'll do it later, is so much more than just a missed deadline or a little extra stress. We're talking about some really big, life-changing consequences that just quietly build up over the years. So just how common is this? Well, check this out. Studies show a massive 80 to 90% of college students are regular procrastinators. Now, in school, you've got deadlines that eventually force you to do the work. But what happens when you graduate and those deadlines just disappear? That's when the real danger starts to creep in. It's a lifetime of quiet regret. It's the dream of becoming a filmmaker that never gets off the ground. It's promising to take your grandparents on that one trip and putting it off until it's just too late. It's health problems, it's damaged relationships, and it all boils down to that one nagging, painful feeling of, what if? You know that awful, churning feeling you get inside? Well, it actually has a name. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's that super uncomfortable feeling you get when who you want to be and what you're actually doing don't line up. It's the mental static of knowing you want to be healthy while ordering pizza for the third night in a row. And that feeling, it just creates this huge amount of stress and guilt.
Okay, so now we're getting to the core of it. If we really want to solve procrastination, we have to understand the science behind our motivation. Scientists have figured out there are basically 4 key ideas that explain the surprisingly logical math our brain is doing every time we decide to wait. First up, we've got expectancy theory. Put simply, if you don't think you have a good chance of succeeding at something, you're not going to be very motivated to do it. It's like, if your goal is to run a marathon, but you get out of breath walking up a flight of stairs, that goal just feels impossible. So your brain goes, why bother? And your motivation just tanks.
Next is something called need theory. This one's about how we're all wired a little differently. Some of us are driven by achievement, some by having power or influence, and some by connecting with other people. If a task lines up with your main driver, like, say, a project that puts you in charge, your motivation's going to be through the roof. If it doesn't, it's going to feel like pulling teeth.
Now, this next one is a huge deal. Don't worry about the fancy name. Just remember this idea: loss aversion. Our brains are hardwired to feel the sting of a loss way more than the pleasure of a gain. Think about it. Finding $20 feels pretty good, but losing $20, that feels absolutely awful. And here's a perfect example of that in action. The idea of gaining a promotion, that's nice, it's motivating. But for most of us, the sheer terror of losing our job is a way more powerful motivator. We are fundamentally wired to protect what we've already got. And finally, there's hyperbolic discounting.
The easiest way to think about this is that our brains are basically toddlers. They want the reward and they want it now. That little head of pleasure from watching a funny video right now feels way more valuable to our brain than a bigger reward, like a good grade that's weeks away. We discount the future, making right now feel irresistible.
So, when you look at all those theories, our procrastination starts to seem pretty rational, doesn't it? It's like our brain is just a calculator, weighing the odds and the rewards. But that doesn't tell the whole story, not even close. There's a huge emotional piece to this puzzle that we have to talk about.
And this is the question that cracks the whole thing open. If choosing to watch a video is the rational choice for our brain because it wants an instant reward, then why does it feel so bad? Where does all that guilt and shame and anxiety come from?
And the answer, so much of the time, is the fear of failure. We're not actually delaying the task. We're delaying the moment of judgment. We're scared of trying our absolute hardest and finding out that it's still not good enough. We're worried what people will think. Procrastination becomes a shield to protect our ego. Okay, we've looked at the history, we've seen the cost, we've understood the science. Now for the good part. Let's build your toolkit. The goal here is to help you become your own procrastination detective so you can figure out the real reason you're delaying and then pick the right tool for the job. And it all starts with a super simple diagnosis. The next time you catch yourself procrastinating, just stop. Take 1 second and ask yourself honestly, what am I really avoiding right now? Write down whatever comes to mind, because just identifying the real problem, that's half the battle right there. And once you've got your reason, you can match it to the right scientific solution. So if the task just feels pointless, use loss aversion. Don't think about what you'll gain, focus on what you'll lose if you don't do it. If you think you're probably going to fail anyway, that's expectancy theory. So you got to make the goal smaller. So small, it's impossible to fail. Not write a book, but write 1 sentence. If the reward is just too far away, that's hyperbolic discounting. Break it down and give yourself tiny rewards right now. And if you're just plain afraid of failing, well, that's all about perspective. You have to remember this powerful idea from the temporal theory of regret. Yes, trying something and failing might sting for a little while. It could be embarrassing. But decades from now, the regret that will really, truly haunt you is for the things you never even tried. The regret from inaction is so much heavier, and it lasts a lifetime. So in the end, it all comes down to a choice between 2 types of regret: the short-term sting of possibly failing, or the long, heavy weight of never knowing what could have been. The choice is yours. So what regret are you going to choose to avoid